Bonjour everyone, I am Annelise Caillez and welcome to Parlez-Vous CEO, where we teach the corporate talk and get real about entrepreneurship. Each week, I chat with founders and CEOs who build businesses their way, through the failures, pivots, and breakthroughs. And they bring the fire. Plus, I'll drop some golden nuggets of wisdom from my own entrepreneurial journey. This is your space to grow, learn, and evolve with a true growth mindset. Remember, success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Now let's kick things off and get this party started. Hello, bonjour, hello. Welcome to another episode of Parlez-Vous CEO. My name is Annelise Caillez and I am your host. And I'm here today with a very good friend of mine, Ben Beggs. So Ben is the SVP of Commercial Strategy at Radix, the Proptech platform that turns family underwriting from weeks into minutes using AI. He brings over 15 years at the intersection of tech and real estate, from modeling multifamily investments as a New York City broker to leading commercial strategy at Sidewalk Labs Alphabet. He now leads product direction at Radix Underwriting, which has processed over $1 trillion in assets and is used by 6 of the top 10 largest apartment ownership companies in the US. Ben, in your own words, can you share a little bit about your story and background with our audience?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you very much for that introduction. Very comprehensive. So, look, I'm an executive at Radix, and I really have like a lot of sales DNA in my background. I spent a long time in the sales trenches, both in real estate and in tech. And when I started working on this project at this company, it was RedIQ, previously acquired by Radix. I was just kind of amazed that this market had not really been disrupted by technology in the way that absolutely everything else in our lives had over the past 10 to 15 years. So I've always seen it as something where this is the last bastion of massive money flows that's not held together by a strong, unified, transparent platform that makes things efficient. And that's what Radix aims to do, is cover that entire life cycle, specifically for multifamily, and specifically because that is the biggest driver. Everybody has to live somewhere. Not everybody rents a storage unit or has an office. And yeah, personally, I live in New York City, have for like 2 decades now. I enjoy skiing. I enjoy surfing poorly when I get a chance. Play a little bit of music. I have 2 kids and they keep me busy. And
awesome. Thanks for that, Ben. So Radix started as RedIQ, right? Which was already a go-to for family underwriting. What did RedIQ do get right? And what was still broken when you relaunched as Radix?
Yeah, so I mean, if you back up to when I started at RedIQ, it was 2018, January of 2018. So only a few months after. At that time, they had been purchased by a company called Berkadia only a few months prior. And I came on and took over from the original founder and ran that business on their behalf. And in the beginning, it was just about awareness. And we just had to get the ICP dialed in correctly, get the solution in front of people. Because like I said, I was amazed. I had been in tech at that point for about 11, 12 years when I came back and found this opportunity. Before that, I had been a commercial broker doing multifamily pro formas and models. And so when I was first interviewing here, I was just baffled that I couldn't believe that nothing had changed other than the version number of Excel. Nothing. I just assumed that, when I left real estate, we didn't even have iPhones. And now here we are doing the same process. Picked that up and said, man, I can really run with this. This is an area that's ripe for disruption, and pushed it really hard. And it started out simple, guerrilla style. On the second day on the job, I inherited this sales team. Good guys. Some of them are still with me. And I went down to a restaurant supply store down in the Bowery and bought this big LED number sign, like the kind that tells you now serving sandwiches, like a ticket taker line, and put it up over the top of the office, and had a huge industrial button that I got from a hardware store, wired it to it to push the number up or down, like one of those big industrial elevator buttons, and started just telling the employees, like, listen, there's no reason why we shouldn't have another 100 customers using this by the end of this year. And we put the number of accounts that were on there right on the wall. And every time somebody got another sign up, one of those guys, they'd walk over and they'd push that big button and it would tick up, right? So just being really focused on knowing like there's value here and all we have to do is communicate it, right? And since then, that product has grown substantially. In 2018, I think when I came on board, there were maybe 30 or 40 customers at the time. We've grown that to well over 700. and some of those big names as well. And the product has obviously evolved substantially since those early days.
And so obviously real estate is one of the most traditional industry out there. So what is it actually like to sell new technology to people who've been doing the same thing for over 30 years sometimes?
It's changing actually. And I think that even in the past few months, like there's just been some really eye-opening stories. So in this case, instead of telling you what happened before, I'll go backwards in time, right? Starting from newer. If you look at only the last 5 or 6 weeks since Anthropic released an Excel-based plugin and all of the other major AI companies have followed suit, we have seen a complete eye-opening across the board of people realizing that the paradigm has fundamentally changed, right? It is that difference from a cell phone is something expensive to holy crap, we will all have a computer in our pocket. And so that is helpful, but getting people to actually get the muscle memory to figure out how to use it and how to trust it is the harder part, right? In some ways, you have the basics of real estate, even commercial real estate. I think about it this way. The laws of estates and trusts that we deal with every day for transferring title, they have not fundamentally changed since like the Magna Carta, right? Like it's the same set of text that we use for how you transfer a deed or where a post is, right? And it's because it works. There is no other reason to change that part, but that doesn't mean there's not a way to be more effective. And so going forward today in a market that is tight like it is now, again, even going to recent events, we have a sudden war with Iran. The treasury, the 10-year treasury has shot up. Commercial real estate, especially multifamily, is very sensitive to that number because that drives your cost of debt. That means that you have to look for deals much, much harder, right? And that process can be automated. So I hear from our clients and from people I talk to, they tell me three things. They're like, look, I just want to make sure that the data I get when I'm looking at any given deal is totally accurate. That I get it out of the source documents. I can trust it. I want that to be done automatically and quickly. The second thing is they're like, I need to get this into some state for evaluation, whatever that means to each individual company. Usually it's, I have this one template of an Excel model, or if it's a broker or a lender that I'm working with, they need to get it into an opinion of value or format where they will submit it to another department to be rendered into a marketing brochure or an investment committee memo or a loan quote spread or an appraisal report. Fill in the blank what the downstream thing is, right? But they want to automate as many steps of getting it into that format as possible. And then they increasingly want all the information that they need, all the market intelligence, to be neatly layered over top of that and have that all in one flow. And some of these, up until even recently when some of the AI revelations started coming out, I don't think people thought it was really possible. They somehow thought that this is different. Real estate, you could never get it. That could never be automated. And yet, at the same time, I can log into an account on E-Trade or Schwab or whatever, and there's a regulated exchange. Everybody's financials are there. You have up to the millisecond pricing to within a penny. We all have the same level of transparency and view. And here we're sitting on this multi-trillion-dollar market where everybody pays 20, 30, 40% of their income into it, and it's scattered in a bunch of PDFs, right? So the industry is waking up, and they're realizing that there's a better way. And so I'm excited for what's going to come next.
And so, Ben, when you see a new Proptech product come to market, how do you know early on if it's going to stick or if it's just going to be noise? Is there anything out there in the market that genuinely impresses you?
Proptech specifically?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like when I think Proptech, I think of it like building physical operations, you know? So some people that have done a good job are honestly sleepers. It's usually things that solve a problem that is widespread, they do it well, and they repeat it everywhere. An example of that might be something like Butterfly MX, right? It's not that complicated. It's a video intercom that buzzes your phone in an app. I say that, I'm sure it's complicated. I don't know the inner workings of their building, but they have done an excellent job at making it easy for buildings large and small to acquire and install that. And they've solved some very basic things like how do you get a delivery, a Chinese menu delivery person in the door securely when there's no doorman, right? So finding solutions, and doesn't even take any AI to do this. That was even a simple. Yeah, does that help? Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wanted to see, because I'm sure as you are in the market, whenever something new is popping up, you must be seeing it, and you must have already a quick idea of like, oh, this is not going to last, or this is going to crash.
I mean, how you know if you never know what's going to crash, but
I said crush.
What's going to crash?
The other way around. Yeah.
I hope I don't.
And so, Ben, you're sales executive. I want to know, what do you focus on when you're hiring? What are the traits of personality that you're after
So for salespeople
for sales?
specifically, or for, yeah, so I mean, it really aligns with like some of our company values, and two of those values are curiosity and impact. And for sales specifically, those are the two centers of excellence. We have five corporate values. Obviously, we want to hire for all of them: responsibility, resilience, et cetera. But curiosity and impact are really strong indicators of success for salespeople, because to be an effective salesperson, it's mostly about finding where your solution, being curious and learning where and from whom you can help. And then impact is framing that, the maximum impact that can be had to the prospect so that they see the value in it.
Oh, I see. So when you mean impact is how they can convey impact.
How they can convey impact. And that impact, if they convey impact effectively, they're going to achieve higher sales numbers. And that has impact for our company, which, like every company, we measure in American dollars.
And so 70% of my audience is female, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
founders, and a lot of founders that I speak with are actually not super comfortable in sales. They do it, but it's not their bread and butter. What do you think women are naturally talented at in sales versus what they think they're good at versus what they think they're bad at? And if you have any tips.
Okay, well, I mean, you're going to force me into a broad generalization here. So, disclaimers up front. Obviously, everybody is different. I mean, I've worked with a lot of women in sales. I've trained them, been on their teams. I've reported to them. And so I have total respect for that. And I think that women should certainly remind themselves that everybody is playing imposter syndrome a little bit, right? I know I feel like I have it sometimes. And I just assumed that was part of being a human being, that everybody gets that from time to time. And maybe it is. Maybe some people don't have it, but that seems like that would be like a psychopath. So I guess what I'm getting at here is that, like, women oftentimes, they can lean into that curiosity trait more easily than men can, because men tend to be afraid that they won't be seen as authoritative or powerful. And so they overcompensate in that way. But when you talk about sales specifically, sales is actually not about selling. Sales is about helping people buy. So if all you do is ask the right questions and then frame the story in the right way, you're going to be successful. And some of those things come considerably easier to women: strong listening skills and strong question asking, which are the top two most important thing for sales. And ironically, sales tends to gravitate more toward men, and especially in commercial real estate. That's the way yeah. Go ahead.
What about in Proptech? Do you see a lot of sales women in Proptech?
I don't see any more or fewer than anywhere else, I don't think. I don't have really any good frame of reference for that.
And Ben, you were a broker in New York, which I actually didn't know that, even though I've known you forever.
Yeah.
And then you moved into tech, and now you're actually building the tools that brokers use. How do you feel that experience changed how you work?
I mean, it's kind of an interesting story because I was a broker. It was a very, very long time ago. So dating myself a bit, like, I was a young broker in commercial down on Wall Street, doing my first sort of multifamily and a few mixed use deals. And that's when the 2008 financial crisis hit. And I remember being at my desk. I had like a deal that was going to close. Barclays Bank called me and said, "Hey, we're not showing up to the closing next week." And I was like, "What? Oh, we have a contract. You've committed. You'll get sued." And the guy on the other end was like, "Okay." And I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I didn't think that could happen. I don't know if anybody thought that could happen. And so, quickly realized, like, I don't know when I'm going to get the next dollar here. I don't know if anybody knows. And that's when I pivoted into tech. Actually, it was mobile tech at the time. So mobile web was the first thing I did. And this was like, 5 months after the iPhone was invented. There was no app store, no anything. And that was the first time I really got a taste of something taking off, right? Like, I always knew, hey, commercial real estate there's a lot of money in it. It's big, institutional. At that point, I was very young, in my early mid-20s. But then going into this mobile world where over the next 3 years, everything just exploded and changed so fast. And I found it so exciting. And so that was that sojourn into emerging tech that I really kind of got hooked on. And so it was somewhat of a U-turn or regression coming back to commercial real estate, saying, hey, these two things, I just assumed that had, like, I started the story with that. I assumed that part of the world had also advanced just as fast. And there was some Salesforce.com or whatever that had dominated that space. there wasn't really, you know?
Hmm.
I mean, there's things like CoStar, but even that is pretty old school.
What do you love the most about Proptech, and what do you like the least?
So, I mean, the thing that I like most about PropTech is that like there is an opportunity for it to have a greater good. And I don't think people see that, right? Because everybody just thinks, hey, PropTech, all it's meant to do is to, enrich the landlord and jack up the rents. And that is actually not the case at all. While it's true that the fundamental game of real estate investing is just like any other investment or security, like income up, expenses down. It's not that complicated, right? The things that go on in PropTech actually can end up making our lives better for everybody. Whether it's, from an environmental perspective, you have a huge amount of energy saving and, better quality of life enhancements, to the fact that, having PropTech be something that facilitates us getting the maximum efficiency out of the housing stock that we have in the country is a net positive for those people that need to live in it. Every day that there's an empty unit and someone who needs one is stressed and money and revenue lost on both sides of the table. So that's what I like the most about it. I mean, I guess what I like the least about it is the fragmentation. Nothing is standard. It's difficult to get everything in line and to get to trust information.
And what's the hardest part of the job that nobody talks about?
The hardest part of working in tech and commercial real estate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably what you mentioned, just that there's inertia, right? And it's not really an industry that until recently has been known for experimenting with new things. So getting people into that experimentation mindset and quantifying the gain that they're going to get, or having them start to think about quantifying the gain, can be challenging.
If you had a piece of wisdom that you would share with your 20-year-old self, whether it's life or career, what would it be?
I mean, short of tomorrow's lottery numbers or, buy Bitcoin early, I don't know. I mean, if I had a piece of wisdom to share, it would probably be, I'm not sure if I actually could share it. I don't know if my 20-something-year-old self could even understand it. It would sound just like any other piece of advice that someone older than you gives today, and that youth is wasted on the young. But it would probably be about that imposter syndrome. It would be to lean into leadership earlier, because that's been the most transformative thing for me. I spent a long time, I probably spent too long being an individual contributor, and it was realizing the amount of impact that I could make through others is probably the most important thing. And especially for your audience, you have a lot of founders. I think founder mode is kind of some of the worst poison that has been fed. I'm not saying hustle is bad, but the idea that you do overarching don't work through others effectively is just crazy to me.
And so how do you step into leadership as you mentioned it?
Yeah. It's really about goal setting and accountability. So modeling the accountability you want to see and then asking for it in return, even just with your colleagues. Even if you're in a big corporation, that's what people are ultimately looking for.
And what's next for you and Radix, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so, you can certainly go to our website, radix.com. I mean, we're going to be doing a fairly big, I have a really busy month these next 60 days. We're going to be actually rebranding the legacy RedIQ application, which is the main thing we've been working on. It'll become Radix Underwriting. I have a suite of automation tools, and we're about to release programmatic connectivity to our systems, APIs to allow people to really take that next step. And you don't have to use my interface, right? You'd be able to use the tools and the back end that we provide as a platform and fit it directly into your workflows. So I'm excited for that future where we can work with people and meet them exactly where they are. That's, you asked, what's the hardest thing in commercial real estate? And it is that inertia. But that doesn't mean that there's not a huge amount of gain that you can make saying I'll help you achieve the thing you're already doing today, right? And make it better, make it faster, make it automatic. Radix.com, Radix.com. Check us out there. Look us up on LinkedIn. I'm Ben Beggs. Also, Google my name, find me.
Ben, thank you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much for coming in the show. Is there any questions that you wish that I had asked you?
Not that I can think of. I think we've covered it. I'll think of one later.
Okay, so that wraps up today's episode on Parlez-Vous CEO and our special commercial real estate series. I'm Annelise Caillez, and I can't wait to join you again next week. Thanks for listening to Parlez-Vous CEO today. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us keep going. And connect with us on Instagram at Parlez-Vous CEO. I am Annelise Caillez, and I know some days are harder than others. On those tough days, think back to why you started. What you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the results yet. Ideas are great, but it's what you do with them that counts. Find everything we talked about today at parlezvousceo.com. See you next week, and you've got this.